Hello, everyone, and welcome to another incredible episode of the Next Health Forefront podcast. And today we have an amazing guest here who we've been trying to get on the show for a while as well. And Miss Jen Esquire, she is the creator of the Mobility Method and the Optimal Body, two programs that we're going to dive into a lot during this podcast.
Yeah.
She's Doctor of Physical Therapy for 4 years now, and you speak all over the country about your methods and your philosophy, and I can't wait to hear about what you tell everyone because we're going to blast that out to all the Next Health audience here.
Thank you.
With that being said, I can't wait to get started. We'll also want to introduce my co-host, Kevin Peak, president of Next Health, who will also have a ton of questions for you. So just like we start all of our podcasts, we need to know everything about you. So start from birth and just move forward.
Oh, God, this could take a while.
Tell us a little bit about what got you to this place.
Oh, man. Never thought I would be doing my own thing, doing business or anything. So it's kind of crazy how it even has blossomed into what it has. I was a mover my entire life. It's just what I've known. From the time that I'm in grade school through high school, my parents required that we're in a sport. And so I've tried everything under the sun, landed upon gymnastics, fell in love. And we've also I've just been in a very active family. We went on family walks. We went on family vacations twice a year that included wakeboarding or snowboarding, So it's just been a part of my life as movement. And I feel very grateful for that because it was just ingrained in me that this is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so I got into undergrad knowing that I really wanted to continue this journey in studying the body and understanding the body, because I would coach gymnastics and be like, but why am I taping an ankle? And I would teach Pilates. And again, it would be the questions of why am I modifying around injury? Why am I modifying around pain? What more could be done? And so it was that of continuing to want to understand the body and what I was doing for other people that I went down kinesiology and then ultimately went into Doctor of Physical Therapy. I just knew that was made sense to me as a correct route of where I wanted to go, of how it could actually help people. And I also loved being an aide and watching a therapist watch movement. And I'd always be like, what are they watching for though? and what are they feeling? And so it was those of wanting to get into the body a little bit more and understand that it really just got me interested. And I would say in physical therapy school was really where first of all, my Instagram started to grow just based on fitness by accident as well. And then after physical therapy school is when I started to educate based on the body and letting people know I actually have an education and I can tell you a little bit more besides just what I can do with my body.
Right.
So really just started to blossom in that. But I also got a good perspective in physical therapy school, I would say, based on what the body can actually do and how much we limit ourselves. I feel grateful, again, I came from this natural background of just moving and knowing that was a part of life, but a lot of people don't. And what I got to see in physical therapy school were people who, one guy was cerebral palsy. I will never forget him. He was 35, living in a wheelchair, but he completely lived on his own. Contractures, everything, couldn't understand, and motor control around his mouth didn't work well. But yet he lived on his own. And watching him get himself down on the wheelchair and get himself back up was incredible. And when he couldn't lift himself back up onto the wheelchair, he started swimming with his therapist so that he could lose weight, so that he can sustain his lifestyle and living on his own.
Wow.
And you're like, okay, here's someone who doesn't put any limitations on what they can do, where we might look at him and say, oh, he needs all the help. He needs someone to do it for him. And he's like, no, this is what my body is capable and able to do. I'm going to do it to the maximum. And
Amazing.
It's incredible to be able to see. And I remember working in a clinic and it's people would come in, well, after 5 miles, my knee hurts. And I'm like, oh, after 5 miles of running, your knee hurts. In perspective, your body's doing really, really well. Of course, there's always optimizing and seeing what else we can do with it. But really, it just got back in my perspective of getting people back into appreciation of their body and empowering them to just gain awareness of their own body. Because really, at the end of the day, as a therapist, I don't fix you. No other therapist fix you, or chiropractors or acupuncturists. We're just facilitating the pathway. And if you're going to someone and they're just going to work on you passively and then tell you you're fine, I would say I would get a little bit more perspective and maybe go see someone else as well, because what someone else does to you can help like fix the symptoms, but I don't think it's going to get down to the root cause.
That's so true. You can't just go for one visit and like expect to be fixed.
Right, which is what we all want.
Which is what we all want, right? Exactly. So can I ask you, how did that translate? I mean, obviously you have a lot of great stuff to teach people. Is that what made you take the next step and do the mobility method? Was that your first program?
It was my first program. Everything just started to blossom on Instagram, which was so crazy. Right. I had zero intention of this even becoming anything. And then once I started educating, I first had the mindset of like, do I even have a place to come out here and educate? Because I was just graduated PT school, felt like I'm still learning myself, and also had mentors and people that I looked up to in the space on social media and thought, I don't want to say anything stupid and be judged by my peers. And so I had a lot of resistance, but then once I started doing it, and to me, what seemed very basic, very easy, it actually picked up really a lot of traction and people didn't know. And I started to realize, oh yeah, those 9 years of school, like I actually might know some things. And the more that I just leaned into that and the more that I continued to grow, it just continued to expand. And it came to a point where it was like, okay, this is awesome. And a lot of people I feel like are getting value, but at the same time, the algorithm is starting to change. And really the only way people were seeing my videos is if it was like on the popular page and new people would come and see it. And then it's like, who's actually saving it and not actually saving it, but actually doing it. And if you're actually doing it, is that even the thing that you need in your body? And so there was all these things of like, is this actually the value that I can give people? Like, yeah, it's cool and it's growing and it's something out there, but how can I actually provide true value for someone across the world that I can't treat?
Sure.
For someone that I can't see. So that's when I decided to come up with the mobility method and just decided to launch it, not really knowing much about online marketing, not really knowing much about how I can actually launch this successfully. But I just decided there's got to be something better that I can give people. And that's when I came up with the mobility method and had a whole self-assessment. So, and all these exercises packaged into different modules within the body. And it actually requires people to do work. And that's a little hard for people sometimes. Yeah. It's like they want, well, tell me what to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like every single day of the week. The problem with that is I can give that, but I guarantee not everyone's going to be starting at the same place and needing mobility. And I usually address things based on like, well, how would I continue into this? And would I actually sustain something over a week or two if you're giving me it to me like every day, or if it's like an hour of like mobility stuff that you're supposed to do, would I actually maintain that? Honestly, probably not. So I wanted to create something that would, one, be personalized and unique to every human, because I want people to understand that your diagnosis doesn't mean that you get the same treatment as everyone. And your diagnosis is just your reconfirming your symptoms of pain that you have. And that's, yes, you get to feel that and you understand that. But at the same time, your body might have these different restrictions that are happening that's actually causing that kind of pain and causing that diagnosis based on what you have been doing all your life and your hobbies and your standing and your sitting and whatever has happened within your body over time. That could be different than someone else's. And so getting people back into the reality of, I need to actually assess what is happening within my own body, pick the exercises that actually work best for me, and sprinkle them in throughout the day. So like do one in the morning before you wake up, or after you wake up, do, a couple before you work out, a couple after you work out, a couple before you go to bed. And all of a sudden you have this mobility routine that you spread out all throughout your day that only took 2 minutes each time. So that was my goal. It's really getting people back into the reality of addressing your own body as your own unique, beautiful being that you are.
Nice. And who is like seeking out the mobility method? How do they find you? Like, what are their problems that they're experiencing? Like, and what do you solve for them?
So most people that come to my page in
Yeah.
general are in pain.
Got it.
I would say majority people are seeking out some kind of ache, pain, tightness, something that's continuously coming up, or maybe it's acutely coming up. Like, oh, I now have back pain. Let me scroll through and see what I can find. And I would say that's majority of what people are coming from. I have a lot of other people who are also just more of the athletic population who have like, feel like they have imbalances within their body, feel like there's got to be a way for me to increase within my weight class or increase within my agility and my mobility in order to be able to move better and perform better in whatever sport that is that they're doing. But my goal is that might attract someone, and pain points might be like your issue as to what you're seeing. But my thing is also like just bringing awareness to that, because pain is what you think is the problem, but actually what really I believe is the problem is neglect. There's something in the body that you're neglecting, because usually where the pain is doesn't necessarily mean that's the problem.
Right. The pain's kind of like the alarm.
Exactly.
There's a problem, then
and
that
we need
signals
that
the
alarm signal 100%. And that's what I'm trying to tell people, because it's usually like, my back hurts. What do I do for my back?
Right.
Where I'm like, well, what if we opened up around the back? What if we addressed your hips? What if we addressed your upper back? And when we break the body down in just like a really joint by joint kind of approach, and really simple, this is how I like to break it down for people, is very simply, is saying, okay, the places that you should have more in general mobility and would be your upper back, your hips, your ankles, and your big toe.
Your big toe?
Big toe.
toe.
Huh.
That's a huge one.
Okay.
And the areas that are usually more of the pain points would be the areas all between that, which is your neck, your low back, your knees, and your feet, plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, why are we just going after the places that we're feeling the pain? What if we went to the places above or below that?
Right.
And especially the big toe. I like to talk about the big toe because we forget about it often, but we walk on it all day long. And so if you don't have proper big toe extension, you're actually going to be able, your body's going to compensate by turning out a little bit more. And then you're going to roll over your foot, maybe have a little bit more pronation. That could lead to a little bit of torque around the knee. That could lead to a little bit of opposite torque around the hip. That can lead to a little bit of maybe some SI joint issues, low back, all the way up to imbalances throughout the shoulder. So your big toe, that hypomobility that you could have in the big toe could play a role all the way up the body.
This is so insightful for me, because maybe that's my problem, actually.
It could be.
I recently started going to Myo Detox. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, of course.
And they did their assessment. They take the pictures.
Yep.
And I'm so out of balance. It's
We
not even
all
funny.
are, which is okay.
Okay, good. That was going to be my question. I was like, am I abnormal? Is this okay?
No.
But when they take a picture of me,
Yeah.
my hips, one is higher than the other, and my
Yep.
shoulders, one is like
Forward.
caved forward and higher than the other, and just so out of whack. But the amazing thing is, working with them, they do their, body manipulation. An hour later, take another picture, and then it's almost perfectly in alignment.
Yeah.
Like, it's really incredible how quickly the body is able to realign. Then, of course, it goes back to its state. It's like, I need to work through this, it seems like, consistently for a long period of time to get it to permanently stay that way. But it was really interesting to actually see how out of balance I was.
Oh, 100%. And a lot of us are. But here's the other thing that I like to say, like, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's pain. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a problem. And also, it's like, if we look at the inside of our body, like, our organs are all just like asymmetrical.
Right.
Right. They're all
But
over
then,
the place.
yeah, and they're different sizes, side to side. But then we say, okay, but everything on the external has to be symmetrical. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Probably
Good
not.
point.
So there is going to be a little bit of asymmetry that is happening within our body, and that's okay. It is something that naturally happens through life. Now, can we be seeking balance, and can we be seeking, how can we not absorb these compensations all throughout our lives, and how can we start to if this isn't going to be working as well on this side, how can I start to make it work a little bit better on the other side? Sure. We can be seeking symmetry, but I don't think we're ever going to find a perfect balance, and that's okay. Because I don't think we should be, searching and trying to achieve something that isn't necessarily the problem sometimes. Like I have, people on my table where just getting them back into breathing and back into tune and lowering from that sympathetic back into that parasympathetic. I've had people of 5 years of back pain cry on the table. And all I'm doing is some simple soft tissue, probably going up, I'm going up on one of the lines that MyoDetox uses as well. But at the same time, what I'm doing is not actually going to be changing or adapting it. It's actually her breath. And when she was able to get into that, tears, because the pain went away.
Wow. So you're incorporating breath work into your
100%.
therapy, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. Is that something that you've kind of started doing and saw a huge effect, and now you do it with everybody?
Yes. The breath work is probably the number one place that I bring people back into before we even do anything. Any kind of touch, any manipulation, any breath is all affecting the nervous system. Everything we do is affecting the nervous system. So getting worked on, that's all affecting the nervous system. Why does it go back? Because your nervous system reflects back into what it knows.
Right.
And so we can get it to tap into this place of like, oh, look at how great that this could be, and look how much release that this can feel when you find that balance a little bit better. But now, how are you going to take that into your everyday life based on breath, exercises, and your own manipulation for your own body internally? That's actually going to create more of a change over time.
So like for Kevin, even though he went to MyoDetox, he should be incorporating breath, manipulation, and exercise into his own life.
Yeah. And they usually give exercises.
They do. Yeah. They give you a whole program of different exercises you could do to follow up with it.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. You can't just go there, get work on the table, and then think you're fixed. It's like, this is, because ultimately it's a result of habits for the most part, which are ingrained in us more than anything else. So we've got to break those habits, and we've got to reprogram the wiring in our body and our brains to get into alignment.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's where it's like, okay, and I use a lot of the same techniques at MyoDetox. I was actually supposed to be clinic owner for MyoDetox.
Oh, no way. That's too funny. We're good friends with them as well. They're great guys.
Oh, yeah, I love them. Back before they even opened the space. I think we were talking about it back before I even graduated fully. It was like I was going to be, and everything just kind of worked out the way it has. We're still like great and supportive of each other. But yeah, so I use a lot of their techniques as well. And that's how I can initially get someone to change the nervous system in the very beginning so that they feel, oh, this is what it can feel like. And getting breath work. So again, taking them from that sympathetic, charged up state of, and that's typically where people are when they're in pain. I don't have time for pain. Why is the pain here? Why is this happening? And it's this sympathetic, like, tightness that you're already bringing into your body. And so just getting you to breathe and lower into that parasympathetic automatically drops you back into your body, can release the stress and tension that you have on your nerves. So you automatically release that sensitivity of pain even. So even just breathing can, and how are we breathing? Really assessing that, getting them back into that, because even that, I've found can change and manipulate your pelvis. And it can open up hamstring mobility. It can open up upper back mobility, just getting you back into your breath and getting things balanced. Because we also look at the body and there's almost like 3 diaphragms. There's our diaphragm, our respiratory diaphragm underneath our rib cage. There's also our pelvic floor diaphragm. And there's our diaphragm within our neck and our glottis. And these are the 3 that we want aligned. So rather than hammering into the hip flexors and opening up and stretching and doing all these other things, what if we just got you to breathe? Because what if dropping your rib cage back on top of your pelvis and getting your neck in alignment with all of that was the one thing that you actually needed to release your muscle restriction?
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
So getting people to think in a different way is really like my goal. And knowing that you have the power to do it into your own tools, getting facilitated, getting worked on is great. And then being able to be led through, now how can I bring this back into my body on my own? And that's where it becomes so pertinent that, yes, I want you to feel this after I worked on you, but I also want you to feel it as we do the exercises so that you know why it's important, that you would want to incorporate this into your everyday. You would want to sprinkle it in. Because guess what? We don't go to the dentist and not just brush our teeth and then just expect them to fix everything for us. Like they're going to fix some things, but unless we maintain on a daily basis flossing and brushing your teeth, you're going to have a lot of problems. It's the same thing at the end of the day. You're, of course, pain and injury and all these things are going to happen if you're not maintaining within your body just these basic levels of where's your mobility at, where is your just kind of like your basic strength levels at, how can we get you back into like the basics of things more so that then you can build on top of that, and how can you sprinkle that in just 2 minutes out of your day.
And you're right, most people don't think about this, like you said, like it should be like brushing your teeth, but I admit myself, like I don't go around thinking like, what's my alignment like right now? You know, so it's
what's most restricted. What can I be moving into?
You just kind of work through the pain until it hurts too much that you can't, and then you
exactly, and that's what most people do until it's too late. And then you go to someone and you're like, fix me. That's like going to the dentist when all your teeth are falling out and be like, fix that.
That's such a good point. So the self-assessment part of the mobility method, like how does that work? Are you doing different motions? Tell me a little bit about that. I'm curious.
Yeah. So for the mobility method, it's all based on mobility. So you're not going to get into strength stuff as much. I mean, mobility for me does mean there is going to be control through the range. There's going to be strength at end range. So I'm still adding in stability and strength. Through mobility. It's not just flexibility, and that's where people get a little bit confused, because flexibility is just let me passively just stretch into this, which I think is a component, especially if we're forward and we're flexed and we're in this rounded position all day long. Yeah, getting you to just open and relax and breathe and passively stretch into position is great. But then now how can you actively get back into that so your body remembers how to get back into that on more of a routinely balanced. And so for the mobility method, the assessment really is just based on what is your range of motion. So what's your range of motion within your neck, your shoulders, your back, your upper back, your hips, and really like, so if we're talking hip flexors, well, what is your hip internal and external range of motion doing? Because a lot of people forget that there could be tightness in the front of your hips because your hip joint itself isn't rotating properly. And so now you're getting a lot more increased anterior pressure of that joint, which makes it feel like it's all hip flexor and I need to dig into my hip flexor, when really, when I get someone's hips rotating better, it releases that feeling of hip flexor tightness. And so really being able to address that and just get someone back into the reality of like, oh, especially if like, you know, pigeon stretch is done all the time, or sitting in external rotation is done all the time. What we're usually neglecting is internal rotation. And so getting someone just to like turn on these light bulbs of like, oh yeah, like I have been neglecting this kind of thing. How can I add it back into my day and start to take pressure off of what's hurting? So if my low back's hurting, maybe it's because my hips aren't moving well. Maybe it's because my ankles aren't moving well. So how can I open up the areas around so I can take pressure off of the pain?
Can we talk a little bit about, and I think what you're saying ties into this, but just prevention. You know, I mean, you're saying most people come to you because they already have pain or they're athletes, they want to increase performance. But what about the people that, you know, don't necessarily have a tremendous amount of pain, but what should they be doing preventatively to keep their body in an optimal state?
Yeah. And that's where it comes back to just increasing your awareness. Awareness is everything. Like if we don't know that we're being a jerk, how do we know that we need to kind of shift our, you know, how we're reacting to people or how we're talking to people? Awareness is key for every area of life. So just being able to become more aware of your own body doesn't mean that you need to know what anatomy is and what muscle insertions are going, or like any of that kind of stuff. It's just in general, can I be more aware of where my main strength deficits are coming from? Like, are my glutes not really working very well when I'm doing squats? And do I feel it more in my quads? What could be happening there? And just starting to increase your awareness in general of where your body is restricted is so important, because we go from needing to put our toes in our mouth at 5 months old. That's an actual developmental stage before you learn how to crawl, before you learn how to walk, before we build strength and patterning and all of that. And then we go from sitting on like crisscross applesauce on the floor when we're in school to suddenly desks and chairs and cars and all these things. So of course we're going to have mobility breakdown. And yet then we're like, oh, just go strength train, just go into the gym, just go look a certain way. And we're forgetting about that foundation.
Right.
And so getting people back into the idea that if you want to just be a functional human, lift your kid off the floor, like pull something off of the shelf, you need to address your foundation. So getting back into your mobility, getting back into your breath, and seeing how that can actually function better for you is key.
Got it. And can we also talk about ergonomics? I mean, you mentioned, sitting in cars and all of that, and it's something I've been thinking a lot about lately, just because we just opened our new corporate office. So we have a whole team of, team members who are here. And I really would like to have a functional work environment, a productive work environment.
Right.
And I am opposed to, sitting at a desk and sitting at a computer all day long. And I don't want to create an environment for our team members that's going to be unhealthy for them and cause their bodies to break down. What do you recommend from an ergonomic standpoint? I mean, we have some desks that go, the standing desks.
Yeah.
I mean, should they be sitting on the balls at the computers? Like, what's the best in your opinion?
The best for me is always
getting up and moving periodically.
It's variability and movement. That's key. And so, like, even for myself, when I have my computer, I'm sitting, I'm standing, I'm laying on my stomach, I'm sitting on the ground working at something. I mean, really, ideally, we need a desk that's going to go all the way from the floor, where you can maybe sit comfortably, like stack up something for your knees and your ankles, but like sitting on the floor to sitting in a chair to standing to laying on your stomach to getting out of flexion in your spine. So we need variability. That's everything. And just being able to change up your position more so throughout the day is the key. And especially being able to get down on the floor. Because one of the main things is, can we get down from the floor and get back up without using our hands and our knees and our other, like most people can't when you start to get older. It's like, oh, give me a hand or like help me up or something. When really that's a basic skill that we need, and it actually is a determinant for longevity in your body and in health as well.
Sure.
And so
a test for everyone listening is to sit on the ground right now and then get up without using your hands and see if you can do it. And if not, you need to go to the mobility method right now and do your self-assessment.
Exactly. I mean, there's literally like a study that was done scoring out of 10. And if you have to put a hand down, if you have to put a knee down, if you have to use your hand on your leg, if you fall out of like standing up, like those are all like knock off some points. And depending on like how many points that you have, I think it's like, I could be saying this wrong. I think it's like under 6 points out of 10. So 10 would be great. Like you didn't lose any points. You're doing great within your body. Under 6, I think, is where it's something like in the next 6.5 years, you could die in 5 years.
Wow.
Something like that.
That's a scary test.
I know. But again, it's just a risk factor. It's just like smoking, just like eating poorly or whatever that we're also going to be doing in our bodies. And we don't actually take that into consideration of how much we need to move within our body. We're usually looking at those external factors as to smoking and food and other things, but we're not looking at movement and mobility. And we should be.
Yeah, that was so true. So I have a question for you. So the rolled shoulders thing, I mean, that's just like pervasive everywhere because people are on their cell phones constantly. Technology has like killed posture, I feel like, right?
Yeah.
So and I have the same problem too. Like I always catch myself with my shoulders rolled forward, and I wonder, like, what is the solution to that? Because we spend so much time on technology. And so what do you coach people as to how to get out of that position? Is it just being aware of it? Or
Number one thing, always coming back to the awareness. So how often am I staying in that position? And then how often am I moving out of that position or doing other positions? And I wouldn't just say it's from here to here. Like, it's actually rotation, and it's actually stretching, and it's actually breathing, and it's actually laying down and doing other things. Or how could I switch up how I use my phone? How can I switch up how I use my desk? And getting that variability. So it's like, if you're going to have your mouse here, like, how can I switch it up where maybe it's lower, or maybe I turn one way, or maybe I have my phone on this side and I'm going to put my phone on this side now. So you're starting to change things around where you're not getting your body into these habitual patterns, but you're actually, just creating more variability. And I think that's the main thing that I'm always going to come back to, because it's the easiest too, to be able to start to address in our body. And really, like, nothing externally that we do is going to create enough change as to what we do internally. And internally means our own movement, our own breath, our own mindset, and all of that kind of stuff. All of those factors is going to create the greatest change for our bodies over time, rather than foam rolling, rather than adjustment or getting body work. Those are all great, and I do them myself, so I'm not like knocking on any of it, but at the same time, they're all just addressing, like, they're kind of coaxing the nervous system, and they're making it feel better for that moment, which is fine.
Yep.
But now, how can we actually create things that are going to make us feel better for long term?
Sure.
And that's really where we get back into.
Interesting. Have you seen that device that goes, like, on your back and is connected to an app and, like, it does this every time you lean forward? It beeps you or something, or like shocks you. Does it shock you? I don't know.
I don't know what it does.
It just shocks you.
It's like a shock collar for dogs.
I know, right? For humans.
Like, their posture's bad and it shocks you.
I've seen it. I don't know. My other thing is that I don't like to bring people into positions that they have to turn it on. Because now if I'm telling you, you have to stay and stiffen and you have to squeeze your shoulder blades down and back, now I'm actually turning on your body, turning on your muscles on a constant state. All that's going to do is, again, drive up that nervous system, get you back into that sympathetic, and get you tighter. Our goal is to get you looser. Our goal is to get you like feeling free within the body, not to stiffen things up.
Right.
So I don't like to go from one extreme to another. I like to play with both. So if you're going to be rounded, can you round even more? Can you extend even more? And maybe playing between the balance of two, I think is great, because also our bodies are like on this spectrum where it's like you're not full hunched. Some people might be over time, but typically you have this perfect alignment, more of a rounded kind of position, and then extension. So rather than just trying to push you over to the other side, what if we can balance it out and get your brain into more of a natural state? So what if I can push you all the way into that rounded position and then push you all the way into extension and play with the balance of that, so that your body then naturally on its own starts to find neutral.
Right.
And that's the goal, is getting the body to find it on its own, and rather than forcing it into a position it's not used to being in.
And it'll never stay there
It
if
won't
it's not a
stay.
natural position.
Yeah.
So my mom is 63 and my
Yeah.
dad is 69.
Yeah.
And they're never going to go on Instagram and go to the mobility method or optimal body or
Yeah.
do any of that. That's just not their world. What would you recommend? I mean, I feel that they're both, aging at this point in their life quicker than I would hope that they are, and their bodies are starting to break down a bit. They recently started swimming a little bit.
Great.
Any tips that you would give for kind of the community that's a little bit older, and how they should try to keep their body in sustain for as long as possible?
Oh man, I feel like we can go in a lot of places with that. I think first thing is like, what can you do in your bed? So like before you get out of bed in the morning and as you're going to fall asleep, like what are some of like the little things that you can start to do? Rotation, I love, through the spine especially. So before you get out of bed, lay on one of your sides, grab a knee, and then just rotate through your upper body. Like do a few of those on each side. See how that feels, you know? You can even bring like one of the foam rollers I like to use is the IntelliRoll. It's a little bit smaller, so it's not bringing this huge thing. So what if you even brought that onto your bed and then just like kind of did child's pose and like some extension throughout the thoracic spine and some breathing, because that gets them into shoulder flexion, which usually starts to decrease over time. And that could be a lot due to the thoracic spine not moving very well over time. So getting them more into like a breathing, opening, and kind of movement pattern, I would say that first thing in the morning is great. You're not going to get on the floor. You not have to do much work. Right. It's just like little easy movements, you know, and it's more about the consistency over time. So doing that every single day rather than 1 hour a week.
Right. Absolutely. Can I ask you about exercise? Because you touched on the person that ran 5 miles and their knee hurts kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I really believe that there's a point in our lives, and maybe it's sooner or maybe it's our entire life, where people do over-exercise. Like, you know, they feel like they want to lose weight, so they run forever on the treadmill, or they, you know, and they cause more harm than good.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about where that point is, either like age-wise or, you know, where in your life, and what that point is as far as how much should you push yourself when you're exercising? And I'm going to talk about the athletes, because athletes have an athletic goal that they want to achieve.
Exactly.
But just like someone who, you know, has a job and then going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, how much do they push themselves, and how do they protect their body so not causing more damage than good?
You know, I think it really comes back to like, if we're not trying to achieve a goal of like winning a race or, you know, winning a CrossFit competition or whatever that may be, then it really comes back to, okay, let's get my foundation super solid before I push myself really hard in this workout. And I think that's what it's about. Like, it is still great to push yourself in workouts because we get that adrenaline rush. We release endorphins. We feel good. We feel like we're accomplishing these little goals even. Like, even if you're not competing, it still feels good to kind of be in more of a competition setting. So I get why it's fun to do CrossFit and to do all these things, and I'm not going to knock it. But at the same time, do you have to max out? No. Do you have to go at your complete fastest? No. And can you make sure that you're not going to squat below parallel if your body isn't allowing for it right now? And that's okay. So almost like challenging your coaches in that way to make sure that you're listening to your own body. And it always comes back to listening to the body. If I don't know what my body's telling me, like, why would it be telling me that something doesn't feel good? Why would it be telling me that it's in pain? How can I step back and say, okay, what movements or what exercise was I doing that actually started to bring on that pain, that actually started to like make it feel more tired or make it feel, you know, less energized? We get to listen to those signs and really see. Like, even I woke up yesterday and I'm like, I'm really sore from a few of my workouts, so I'm going to take it a little bit easier, and knowing that I wasn't going to go super hard. So, and it's allowing yourself that space and that healing to be able to recover. And mobility, like, come back to it, because it's the one thing that you can do every day that's not going to destroy you. So one thing that can be personalized within your body, that doesn't have to require going to a yoga class or going to something you don't feel comfortable with. And it's something that you can do anywhere, anytime, any place. And it also will just carry you into more of your strength routes. I've had so many people that do the mobility method, and they're like, I can't believe it. Me and my coach are shocked. I went up a weight class in Olympic weightlifting, which you would think like, wait, you're not supposed to do mobility if you're doing strength training, you know, but it actually goes hand in hand. So if we can come back into that mobility setting, into our foundation again, like, it's only going to assist us, because we get to recover and we get to get into that recovery phase and slow down, listen to our body, and then we can get back into moving and being more functional in our workouts.
Got it.
You know, and another thing on that is the book Blue Zones, which I know you read. Did you read the book Blue Zones?
No, I haven't.
It's about the 5 areas in the world, you know, where they have the highest concentration of sedentarians.
My grad school was on a Blue Zone.
No way. Which one?
Where?
Loma Linda.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Loma Linda is a Blue Zone in the United States.
Right.
Yep.
The Seventh-day Adventist population there.
Yep. No caffeine, no meat on campus.
Exactly. No alcohol, right?
No alcohol. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But as far as mobility and exercise goes, all of them have been living their entire lives. None of them have really done any type of hardcore workouts, but their entire lives, like, physical activity was part of their daily routine.
Yep.
Every single day for 70, 80, 90 years, they were going and they were gardening. They were walking 5 miles uphill, carrying stuff into their hundreds, some of them, 105 years old, still gardening and doing things. And I think it really comes back to what you were saying about of consistency. It's not about hitting hard once or twice a week, but consistently building it into making it just part of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for them, and that's a pretty strong testament that the 5 areas that they've identified in the world that have the highest longevity.
Right.
These people, all of them, have had an active lifestyle where none of them are working out a lot, but they're eating healthy and they're moving every single day, like a couple hours a day. They're doing physical activity until they're very late in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's even a study that was done showing that in cultures and religions where they went down to the ground and prayed numerous times throughout the day, they have lower osteoarthritis within their population.
Interesting.
And you're like, duh, because you're putting your hips in their full range of motion. Right. You're putting your body in its full range of motion and then having to get up and down on the ground. So you're maintaining the strength and the load there as well. Where how often are we doing that?
Yeah.
Hardly ever. Unless you're going to yoga, unless you're going to a class that's going to get you on the floor, unless you have kids, like little kids, you're probably not getting on the floor as much. Like we need to be getting up and down a lot more throughout the day.
So we're not being punished for not praying. It's just that we're not getting up and down as much.
That helps too, spirituality.
Wow. Well, can we talk about the optimal body? Because I'm really curious now. Because it sounds like you covered a lot of ground on the mobility method. So what did you add with optimal body?
So with the optimal body, it was a way of the people who don't want to think.
Oh, that's all right here.
Exactly. Exactly. Because, I mean, I get it. Like, we already have so much mind space in all these other areas. So how can I grab something where I don't have to think about what exercise I'm doing, what mobility I'm doing, what core I'm doing, and I'm even adding mindset tools in there to just start to think about, because it all is encompassing, and it goes into a lot of breath work as well. So it's an all-encompassing program where you can do anywhere, anytime. So it's not going to be your one-all, be-all, because there is no strength training, there is no running, there is no other things that I think that you should be incorporating within your body as well. But it's one way of just starting to look at the body and start to become aware. It's my tool to educate, because it's less about losing weight and it's more about learning where your body is not working well. So most of the functional HIIT workouts, I call them functional HIIT workouts because I'm going to put you in external rotation lunges and internal rotation squats and these things that are bad usually, but they're going to put your joints in your body in these weird positions, or single leg stability, single arm stability, just mixing it up where you probably aren't doing that in most of your workouts, because my goal is to just broaden your aspect of what's not working well within your body so that you can start to learn. The core in there goes from level 1 to level 4, and it's really a way of like, okay, what is actually our core? Because that's actually our entire pillar from our shoulders down to our hips. And again, looking at the 3 diaphragms like I talked about, and really getting your pelvic floor, your glutes, your back, and wrapping around to the front and where your core is to actually work as one, because it's not the 6-pack that we think it is. That's not going to give you a functional core. So teaching people how to use that. And then the mobility breaks down into upper body, lower body, spine, and full body. So it's a way to be like, oh, my upper body's feeling tight. Let me grab this and do this as a warm up or a cool down, or just on my rest day. So it's a way for people, again, to just drop in, not have to think. The mobility method, you got to think. You got to self-assess. You got to pick the exercises that work for your body, and you got to implement that, which I think is great, and it's so needed. But at the same time, here's a way for you to still be able to learn, still be able to improve your awareness within your body without having to do as much work.
Oh, interesting. So is it like a collection of different, basically, exercises? And how many do you have in that series?
So every month that you're on, you get new HIIT workouts, new core workouts, and new mobility flows. And then after a year, I bring in other friends as well that do animal flow, kettlebells, weight training. I bring in other people so that you can learn from other people, because you already got a year of me.
That's great.
So I love animal flow. I've seen it one time and played around with it some, but it's such a fun concept, which is basically what you're saying.
Get on the floor and move.
Yeah, it's just moving around and getting crazy, and it's a a fun way of doing it.
It is.
Just mimic a bunch of animals. So
I was going to ask, what is animal
Be
flow?
a monkey right now, then be an alligator, and like do, you got to do it like you do
cool.
a workout kind of mimicking these animals, right? Or am I butchering it? Is that a
No, I mean it's a whole like exercise form, and just being able to use different lines within the body, but on the ground. So you're crawling, you're rolling, you're pushing on one arm, one leg. It's being able to tap you into your body in ways that maybe looks more like an animal, but it really becomes a lot more functional.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I recently just had shoulder surgery. I had a rotator cuff surgery. And one of the things the orthopedist was telling me is that, he looked at my MRI and he's like, you've totally torn up your shoulder over the course of your life. A lot of that has to do with me doing surgery. We use our arms a lot in surgery.
Yeah.
But no one ever told me when I started surgery school that you have a risk of tearing up your shoulder by doing this, you know? And so I wonder, let's talk specifically for rotator cuff. Okay. How do you protect your rotator cuff so you don't get to the point that I got to where I needed to have surgery to pin my tendon back to my bone,
right.
you know? It seems like a really big problem because all the people that are my age, like in your late 40s, almost all of my friends have a rotator cuff issue now. I can't tell you how many people.
Oh, a lot of people.
You know? So,
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that or your thoughts.
So my thoughts is, again, going back to, okay, how was your upper back doing that entire time, especially if you're bent over and doing a surgery for long hours? Like, were you addressing it? Were you coming out and twisting and opening and stretching? Probably not. And so this whole front area tends to get a lot tighter, and everyone probably tends to get a lot tighter there if they're working at a desk or computer all day long, or a phone or anything like that. We're usually tighter in our front side of our body. So what are we doing to combat that throughout the day? And that's not just exercise for the back, but that actually means kind of stretching and opening and releasing and breathing. So what are you doing for the front side to address the shoulder? That's one of the things that I like to do. And then just, in general, like being able to check around the shoulder, like were your lats really like tight or restricted, or maybe not working well, or was your serratus anterior, we don't even think about that muscle usually, how was that functioning? And we usually think shoulder blades down and back means like my low traps and my mid traps need to be engaged, but actually if you want your shoulder blade to kind of relax and rest on your body, that's actually your serratus, because it takes that shoulder blade from the inside and wraps it around the rib cage. So we actually want that guy to be understanding how to engage. So it's like, and you won't know unless you went to a therapist. And I say, if we're going to go to a physician and get checked on, why can't we just go to a therapist once a year and just see what's going on with our body? And I also like pelvic floor. We're usually so checked out from pelvic floor, we have no idea what's happening until usually a woman goes and has a baby, and that's like major surgery. And then it's like, oh, just rest and you'll be fine. Go back to life. And it's like, no. So I always say too, for like a woman, if you're going to go get a pap smear once a year, go into a pelvic floor therapist, those exist, and get just a checkup, because we don't know, we have muscles going on down there, and we could already be having prolapse or diastasis recti. A lot of men have diastasis recti, don't even know it. So again, just getting checked to bring your own body back into awareness, like pay for one visit a year. Could you do that? It might be out of your insurance, but could you do that? Is your body worth paying one time a year just to get checked?
It's such a good point, because everyone thinks of physical therapy as something you do after you get injured, right? No one even considers doing it. I would say no one, but most people don't consider doing it before you're injured. But you're absolutely right. You need to work it into your yearly routine. You need a checkup of your movement.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Why not do that? And
Why
pelvic floor is a
not?
huge problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish I would have done that for the last 20 years myself.
Exactly.
Maybe I wouldn't end up in the surgery,
Yeah, it's true.
So that's such a good point. So everyone listening, go see your physical therapist.
Go see your physical therapist.
What does it cost to see a physical therapist?
I mean, if your insurance covers it, it could be like $20. It's just like nothing, maybe even less. And you can go directly to your therapist. I think in most states, I won't say every state, but most states have direct access now. You don't need an MD referral in order to go see your physical therapist. And find out from other people. Don't just go into a random one, but be like, who worked with a physical therapist? Who did you like? Find out if they're great, if they're good, or if they're just going to stick you on a ultrasound machine and a electrical stimulation and not really get you moving or really assess you. Or maybe the clinic is too high turnover where they can't even fully assess your body. Because if you go in without even really a problem, they're going to be like, well, I can't look at your shoulder. I don't have time. Like, what are we doing? Like,
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, do most physical therapists have this mindset of someone who doesn't come in with a problem is still someone that needs to be evaluated and given options?
I think more and more so now, but it's still like, even in physical therapy school, you're taught to only address the issue. Like, it's their shoulder, bring them back to their shoulder. Get them out of a story. I don't care what's happening in their life. Get them back to their shoulder. What's their pain level at? What happened? What activities can they do? Can they not do? And we're only focused on one minute area. And you're like, hello, this is a human. What they do during the day and what story led them there, I need to know, because stress is a huge component on what's happening with pain and the body as well. And environmental factors and what they're surrounding themselves with, what food they're bringing into their body. Not that I'm going to be addressing that, but I can refer out if I need to. So I do need to know their whole story, and I do need to assess their full body. And most of the time in a clinic, you don't have time for that. I think around LA, at least, a lot of clinics are giving a lot more time to that. But I can't speak for other places, unfortunately.
And you're right. The whole stick them on a machine and ultrasound is like a huge. Like, I feel like that's where most of your time is spent in a physical therapy office sometimes.
Oh, which is unfortunate.
Unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but I luckily have a great physical therapist that does a lot of the things that you're talking about. Like I said, 20 years earlier, I wish.
I know. That's okay. That's okay.
But it's the same thing with health. Like,
yes.
Doctors are taught to diagnose a disease.
Yes.
Prescribe a pill for that disease.
Yep.
That's why we created Next Health, is so you can find the problems 30 years before they're an issue. Like, why fix something when it's broken?
Exactly.
And it's so encouraging to talk to you, to hear that your body, like your movement and your body and your physical therapy, also, you need to have that same mindset around that as well.
Oh, yeah, completely. I mean, our whole culture has been taught to mask issues.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We're taught to wait until it's happening and then cover it up instead of listening to it.
Right.
And going back to that alarm system and saying, okay, cool. Like, I need to feel pain in my body, or else I don't know what's happening. If I don't feel pain in my body, that's when I can risk dying or having something fall off or whatever it may be. I have to feel that alarm system within my body in order to know that I need to address something, because I'm neglecting somewhere in my body or my life or my environment or whatever it may be. But you need that. So it's a good thing. Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, that's great advice. So I have another question for you.
Yeah.
So what would be like the top 5 things that you recommend to all of our listeners to do, like in your world?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like run, don't walk to the Mobility Method website and do that. But like, if someone like doesn't have a lot of time and they just want to they want to hear the top things that's going to make a big difference, move the needle. Can you give us some of those? 3 or to 5?
Yes.
Yeah.
First thing is breath. I've been talking about it the whole time, right? So how are we breathing? Typically when we say take a deep breath, it's like, and we put everything into our chest and then we relax. And really, if we think of just like a simple breath cycle, our inhale is actually our excitatory, our sympathetic state. That's like if I get scared, I do a deep inhale and I hold it. My exhale is actually my relaxation, my parasympathetic. That's going to get a massage and like that's that state of being. So how can you bring yourself back into that exhale state and stay there more rather than the inhale state? So even just thinking of that, like,
so true. As you were talking, so I just started breathing as you were saying that, and the only thing I was focused on just now was the inhale, and it wasn't even a thought to me, the exhale. It was just like my for me to improve my breath, it was just like, how can I breathe deeper? How can I breathe fuller?
That's what we usually think.
But we don't even think about the exhale.
The exhale is key. That's where I want to bring people back into. So it's like, do a 4-second inhale, or I mean, this is general guidelines. You can mix this up however you want, and then do like double that time on the exhale.
In
and
the nose,
focus
out the mouth.
For general training, I like to do that. I like to do in through the nose, slowly out through the mouth, like you're blowing out candles, like you're blowing through a straw, or just in and out through the nose. Because really, we're releasing too much carbon dioxide throughout the day, typically, and we're not keeping enough within our body. And that's actually what's going to attach onto the hemoglobin, release the oxygen, and get our brains oxygenated, which is also why we need to be like sleeping with our mouth closed so we can wake up and actually be energized, and have some oxygen and some blood flow into that brain. So breathing in and out throughout the nose is actually a really good thing. Getting you back into that exhale, so important. And then lastly, when it comes to the breath, is just like, where is that breath going? Our rib cage, or our diaphragm, is underneath the rib cage, right? So can I expand through my rib cage out to the sides and front and back? And can I let the belly relax? Like,
we're like here practicing this.
Yeah, I love it. You guys are like subtly kind of doing it. So good.
That's why we're not talking. We're like breathing.
I love it. But sometimes I get people to put their hands on like their low rib cage. So it's not just like a belly breath, because you don't want to push the belly in and out. That happened a lot. I would have so many clients who came in and be like, I'm so good at belly breathing. Look at my belly. And it like forcing it in and out. And I'm like, not really the thing that we're supposed to be doing. So getting them like back into like, okay, can I feel my rib cage? What is my rib cage even doing? And as I take a breath in, can it expand? As I take a breath out, can it start to collapse? And getting back into that, I would say do it sitting in traffic. Do it when your boss is yelling at you. Like do it in like those stressful moments that can bring you back into your body. Key, like number one thing. I also really actually like dry brushing.
What's that?
It's for the lymphatic system. So you can buy a simple dry brush on Amazon or whatever. And there's so many YouTube videos that you can look up and just like how to dry brush. And it's just, and I mean, you can even do it with your hand and just kind of moving fluid up through the heart. And actually when we improve our fluids throughout our body, drinking a lot of water, doing all that kind of stuff, we're improving our fascial glide, will improve our mobility. So rather than smashing, try dry brushing. Be gentle with the body. That's what I like to do. So, and even just like bouncing, letting your body be loose. Like we're always too stiff. And so go to a dance class, like do things that get you out of your norm. Go bounce on those little rebounders, or even just standing on your toes and kind of bouncing on your heels and letting your body relax. That actually is like good to kind of wake up that fascia and get that lymph moving better, and again get that slide. So a lot of times even before a workout I'll just bounce, and that helps to release a lot of tension. Nice. So that is another great one. What else? And then just find a couple movements before you get out of bed that make your body feel amazing. Find a couple movements before you go into bed that make your body feel amazing. So maybe if you've been sitting, maybe you're going to, all day long, you're going to stretch your quads, you're going to stretch your hip flexors before you lay down. Maybe if you've been like rounded in a ball sleeping all night long, you're going to open up your chest. You're going to, do something that kind of gets you out of that and then start your day.
I love that. Those are great tips. Thank you. So what's next for you? What are you going to do? What's the next program?
I think just focusing on these right now is really my goal, and just getting people back into why it would be important, because anyone can teach you the how, and you can go to my program and you can learn the how, but unless you understand why it's important, you're not going to do it.
Right. So how do people find the program again? Can you tell everyone?
Yeah. I mean, you can find me on DocGenFit on Instagram, Facebook, website, YouTube, all the things. So that's easiest. And then my website will have the mobility method and the optimal body on there. My Instagram will have both of them as well. And so you can find everything there.
Great. I love it. And then I asked one question of most of our guests, and this is a really fun question for me, is tell me about your daily routine. What do you do from the minute you wake up to and I know it's different every day, but most people have a routine of some sort, at least the high points of things that you try to hit every day. Yeah. Would you go through that with us?
Yeah. So ideally how I would like every morning to look, and how I wish that every morning could look. It's not perfect. But getting up in the morning and journaling first thing as I'm waiting for my coffee. I love just getting pen to paper, releasing some thoughts, maybe getting clear on what my intentions are for the day. And then drinking my coffee. I love my coffee first thing in the morning. Getting a little mobility in, and then and getting some breath work in. So just it's not very long, but just a little bit. And then I usually go and start my day with my workout. And I have a friend that comes over. I love accountability partners. I love working out and I need it in my body, but accountability for me is key. And she just has to come over. I'll put the workout together. I'll do everything, but just I know if you're coming, I'll get out of bed and go do it.
Yeah.
So accountability in working out, and then just going through my day with whatever work I kind of have, and again, mixing it up. Maybe I'm standing, maybe I'm sitting, maybe I'm laying on the floor on my stomach, whatever I'm doing, I'm mixing it up as I'm working and going about my day. And that's basically it.
Do you have a bedtime routine?
Not really, actually. I've been trying to be more cognizant on putting my phone on the red background and putting the glasses on, and not checking my phone and scrolling right before I go to bed.
Yeah, and a couple of mobility exercises that you
And
love.
a couple of mobility exercises.
Well, thank you so much. That was awesome. And I have a whole new kind of appreciation for what physical therapists do, for what you do. I'm definitely going to spread the word that everyone needs to see their physical therapist on a yearly basis. I wish I had now. And now that I know, you know, but
just
definitely
go get a checkup.
And I'm doing the mobility method. I'm going to get self-assessed.
Great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, guys.
You're great.